That's all my company doing. And then application, I do an appeals.
No, but hey, listening to Kamala talk last time about bringing all of those things that have to do with property development. What's going on live now?
Somebody here, this person coming.
Yeah. But listen, all on live. We are live. Good morning to Trinidad and Tobago. We are putting it together. This is our first super early morning session. Big shout out and thanks to Michelle and IWER for making it happen. Big shout out to Kyle wherever you are. We want you in studio, so set us up and come in because we want to take calls in the second hour. I have with me Roger Alexander and Paul Daniel Naus. I need to know, and I just waited on a cue from Michelle to tell me that we're live on air. And we have so we have with us two guests. I want to bring them. I'll bring them on the microphone. As soon as I can get them on the screen, they'll be on the screen. But let me say, in seniority, Inspector.
Going back.
What was your last title? Superintendent?
Senior.
Senior Superintendent Roger Alexander. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. And good morning to the viewers and the listeners at this time.
And well, Paul Daniel, now security expert, he is back with us this morning.
Glad to be back. Always glad.
In all of the introducting yesterday with all your titles, I forget to tell them that you're also an alderman in the Diego Martin Regional Corporation.
Borough Corporation, sir. No, it's a borough now.
It's a borough now. What's the difference?
I'm asking that since I've been so in this wrong, so I'm not really sure.
Marketing.
PR.
So anyway, we wanted to break off an issue and deal with it because apparently, but I want to bring them in. Apparently, when the senior superintendent made some revelations to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the good men and women of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, are laboring with faulty equipment. Paul Daniel Naus had told me years ago that a lot of the equipment expired. I understand that they're walking around with bulletproof vests that may not be as bulletproof as they think. You jump in anytime already, you know. Give them the information because Trinidad need to know because we can't continue to pretend that what we're seeing is how this country is supposed
Roger,
to
where
be.
we start with that?
All right.
Go ahead, try it.
First of all, in order to better protect the citizens of this good nation, the persons who give them that responsibility must have the requisite equipment, the resources available to them, so they can go out there with confidence to perform their job. So let us start from there. All right. Dealing with the bulletproof vest. Now I would go into things, but again, when we're looking at national security, I want us to be very careful because we don't want to give the criminal element the advantage over the protective services. But bulletproof vests. Many of the bulletproof vests, if not a large amount of bulletproof vests, they have expired. They have expired.
What does that mean when it comes to a bulletproof vest? Those of us who don't know, there's obviously a lifespan.
Right, there's a lifespan.
So you've outlived the lifespan. What happens to the vest? Does it stop being functional?
Yeah.
I'm going to over there to go into a little more technical stuff, but again technical.
Yeah.
What happens is that when you reach an expiry period, that's past that date, the manufacturer cannot guarantee that the vest will do its job 100%. And every year or every couple of years from that, the material degrades. Now, it's slight. So, but when you deal with a bulletproof, always bullet resistant is the technical term for it. But a bullet resistant vest. I know Roger would have been using bulletproof because that's what people know.
Say, yeah.
People say and they know.
Resistances.
There's no such thing as a bulletproof vest.
No, but when it first appeared on the market all those decades
Yeah, it was
ago,
bulletproof.
they call it bulletproof, right?
And
but now that
lawsuits ensued.
Yeah.
But what happens is that it starts to degrade over time. So past a certain date, the manufacturers say, we can't guarantee it past this date. But and it doesn't degrade rapidly. However, do you want to go out there, knowing that you went from a 99.9% chance it will stop wrong to a 96%
He
chance.
said that confidence.
Yeah, that
you want to
have no
step out.
confidence.
You want to step out. You're stepping into a firefight. You want confidence.
And it will keep degrading. Also, too, even the carrier, the plate carriers, the plates are degrading, but the plate carriers, if your plate carrier is not holding up your plate, and when I say plate, I'm using that term loosely because there's soft inserts also. But when that thing is falling apart and you have to go by your seamstress to get that stitched up, and, oh God, man. Really?
Wow.
For the men who are putting their life and women who
But
put
we're
their lives on the
spending
line.
$9 billion on national security. What are we spending it on? All that went into wooden ladders?
A significant portion went into things that I would say that they're not doing a proper audit of the equipment to understand where the money should go. For example, the vehicles that were proposed to be bought. Now, good thing you're buying police vehicles, you're supplying them.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. But
yeah.
take out 2 vehicles out of that fleet and buy vests for the men now.
I want to ask, as you mentioned vehicle, let's segue there for a second, because I've always wondered. I know in the United States of America, they buy made-for-purpose police vehicles.
Right. That's a major issue here.
So the suspension is hardened.
Major issue.
If the chassis is reinforced,
Chassis
there's
reinforced.
somewhere to actually
Major
put
issue.
perpetrators.
So made for purpose, right? We don't do that. We buy cars straight out the
Yeah,
showroom.
we go to the showroom and we choose a car.
And when you buy a SUV, you throw them away in the trunk. And then if somebody hits a police officer,
Yeah.
and the suspect or the person apprehended gets injured, they could come back and sue the police now.
There's some details, some issues that we need to treat with, because take for instance, as we speak, many of the officers will tell you that they might have obtained a vehicle, but there's no siren and blue lights attached to it. Now, unless someone is obedient to the law, he might not even acknowledge that.
May I not
Otherwise-
give away or anything? Yeah.
They would not acknowledge that vehicle on the road in case of an emergency. But some of the vehicles have no lights, but hear what I'm saying. What the police need is a complete product.
Correct.
And a complete product is one that is street ready, yeah, and protection ready and service ready. So we're looking at giving you something that is ready from the time I cut the ribbons.
Correct.
It is ready to service the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Right? Again, that will give not just the police confidence, it will give the public. Or the
I
citizens.
listened to words coming out of the mouth of the just come Minister of National Security, and I don't think he understands.
I know he clearly does.
National security and policing, frontline policing, is not the same as any other field or endeavor. You leave your home prepared to put your life in danger for strangers. We have a responsibility as government to make sure from the boots you're wearing, it had to be comfortable. You need to make sure that you're secure in your footing. These are things that people may hear.
The
And
officers buy their own boots, have to buy their own holster. They have to go and some of them have to buy, if they need a certain type of holster because they've been moved, let's just say, to IETF, to GB. You could chime in and correct me if you have to correct me. But you move to GB, you move to IETF, you move to a certain unit, you may need a drop leg holster, a certain type of equipment. You have to go and buy it because they go to stores don't have thing. They don't know when they'll procure it. What are they gonna do? They have to go and buy it privately with their own money.
There are a number of issues that law enforcement needs to treat with. And if you want to dig deeper into things, law enforcement, to me, the whole national security apparatus should not be treated like any other entity.
of course,
It cannot be.
of course.
These are the persons who you depend on daily. You want to sleep in the night, you want to walk about in the day, you want society to be good, the business people want to be good. Those are the people you depend on.
Yeah.
We literally sleep under the blanket of security that you provide.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's what you do.
So we must not treat them like any other person. And I recall, I cannot forget ever when, after the COVID period, when they were showering praises on everybody, I was wondering if they noticed us at all. Let me tell you this. We were in vehicles, bus, different things, toting persons.
When
With
you
COVID.
didn't know When
I
you
was
didn't
with you at
know,
that point.
yes,
I
in
remember
the
that
beginning,
buses,
when we
yeah.
didn't know what COVID was, and you
Exactly.
thought that if you get, you could die.
Right.
That
And
is,
you were putting your life on the line to do that. And then, you see, it's not just you and your colleagues. It also involves your family.
Your family.
Because you're going home.
of course.
So, when people treat you just like everybody else, it has really put a strain, a mental strain.
And the
on
word
law
you used
enforcement.
just now, confidence, again, I think about the mental well-being of
Yes.
our law enforcement officers. That is mission
All right,
critical.
so
if you're not contributing,
piggybacking on that, what you said, I remember the riots in East Port of Spain.
Right.
And I had gone onto Besson Street at the
Right.
time with you all. And it was chaos. Yeah, it was total chaos. And
Chaos.
people just getting shoved on buses
Yeah.
and going, and this was coming out of COVID. It was
was crazy.
chaos down there. And the police were holding in line. If not, Port of Spain would have been burned to the ground.
And then-
I'm telling you straight out, it would have
Okay.
been burned to the ground.
Okay.
And then you know what they didn't do? And we did it because it wouldn't have been done. I had to go to the academy the day after. And I saw an officer, a young constable, looking like he's dropping asleep on himself from GEB. I said, what happened? You're tired, you're not getting rest, you're young, right? He says, sir, I on 48 hours right now. I now come from Port of Spain. And that start of 48 hours.
Yeah.
I
For
had,
next
I,
session, yeah.
I
and you're
called
expecting a man whose job it is to make judgment calls in an emergency,
with a rifle on him.
crisis.
With a rifle on him.
Yeah, so he had to make judgment calls, but now, because you know, as you get more and more tired, your ability, because they've proven that tired driving, if you driving tired, is as bad or worse than drunk driving. You are as impaired.
When that happened, I called. There was a mental health consultant again, someone who was cut afterwards. I called him one time. I say, hey, I just beat up this boy. What going on? We had to do a debriefing, a mental health debriefing. I said, but this should be standard procedure.
So who is responsible for the operating, the circumstances under which police operate? Who is the line person responsible for that? Commissioner?
Well, the Commissioner of Police, you know. But I will tell you this. One of the greatest things that could come out of this whole election process is a hands-off approach from government with the operation of the police service. You know what I'm saying to you? We need to remove that,
Separate the powers.
separate the powers,
How
and
would,
allow
what
the
do you
police
propose?
to do their job.
What do you propose? What would be the mechanism? I know how we separate like the judiciary from the state, from the executive. How would you do that? Because you're still gonna want some controls at the end of the day.
Right. You will have control, but not a dictatorship type of control.
That's what's going on now.
yeah.
Right. You need to have proper consultation, constant communication. Yeah? And when all that is said and done, you need to remove yourself. You are not the Commissioner of Police, you know. You are the provider. Give the police and other arms of national security all it requires. And when I spoke of resources, enabling tools, giving them resources so they could perform their job efficiently and effectively.
If you decentralize the authority of the police service, if you gave the line commanders along the way more power, so that they're responsible for their community, constituency, if they're responsible for however you break up the country, and that they collectively answer to the commission. If you were to create that sort of structure, would that help? If you were able to say that, okay, I know that we have how many districts we
10
have?
divisions.
10 divisions. And then that doesn't include things like the Northeastern Division Task
Yes.
Force.
No, that's
No,
right.
well-
Well, that's on division, as a part of the division.
That's part of the division, right? So okay, but they have things that we know. They have units that we know because they get famous, right? But we have 10 divisions, okay? The leadership of those divisions, how much authority do they have? How much responsibility do they have for the men and women under them?
They are totally responsible. The senior superintendent, he's responsible for his division, which includes everything. He can guide, he can implement new measures as the case may be that he sees fit.
For that district.
Yeah, he has really authority.
They have a lot of authority in,
Yeah.
in the
the division.
We're just speaking about they basically having not even a software. They basically have the
Yeah.
authority. It's just that I think what you're talking about, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
you're looking at more of a unit how city police would work in larger countries or
Correct.
so, where they have
Correct.
almost ultimate authority
Correct.
in that region.
And then you answer to a senior above you.
I think we. I
But
think
you're
that-
responsible for the numbers of crime in your community.
well, they still they are.
They-
They have a
that's how-
constat
that's how
every
the
month.
system is.
Every week, sorry.
When you keep the Comstat, you understand that that's how the system is. However, let me tell you this: we need first of all to implement laws in Trinidad and Tobago that will be effective laws, and it will have a positive outcome with respect to criminal activities. Now, what we do, we often repeal laws. So we might have a law. We say we have a law, and what we do, we repeal Section 2. But was Section 2 effective enough to cause a positive impact on the crime, on that particular crime in Trinidad and Tobago?
Okay, I know you want to say something there. So we jump around there because now we're talking about legislation or rules and regulations.
Everything work hand in hand. Believe that. You need to work hand in hand.
You know, we go back to this point again from yesterday where the legislation is failing us. Legislation is failing us.
Definitely.
If you look at some of even the regulations with police and legislation, municipal police and supplemental police, if you look at all of that, it's really archaic. Remember, a state police was from what? When they had a state plantation
It really
and they
is.
got
It
it,
really
and we
is.
still call it a state police.
It really is estate police. That's what it is.
Yeah, it was for estates.
And when I mention these things, people seem not to understand what I'm saying. And let us swing right back around to the question that you started when you said when I saw some of the equipment is not ready. If you have a phone there, right? Go and pull up if you want. Go on Google or go on Amazon and look for something called a Gentech body cam.
Oh no, we did that. We did that. We did that whole exercise already. We did that. We did that exercise.
The persons misunderstood what I said. Now, listen, I also tell you, if I buy this mic for law enforcement that could serve the people, yeah, you remember I am operating the mic, but I cannot service the mic.
Correct.
So if I bought this mic, I must also find persons who will
Maintenance package.
service the mic.
You need support,
effectively.
back-end support.
So as soon as the mic is down, hey,
That's what we
so we up and running the next day. But
That's
not
right.
have the mic done for 10 months and 6 months and 7
This
months.
is the problem that
And that's why we
Just
said
like
made
with-
for purpose.
with police.
Made
Not
for
only that.
purpose.
with police especially, other fields, but police especially, they think because a police is issued a firearm, for example, that they are firearm expert.
Yeah,
that they
they're
know
not.
about trade, they know about repairing any weapon. No, they are the operator of
Yeah,
the
the
equipment.
operator.
You need back-end support.
You
That's
have to
basically
have-
what you're
you
saying.
have to have- whether
you
it's
have to
body
have
cam-
back-end support for all of the equipment.
Police drive vehicles every day, right?
Yeah.
So why police can't fix the vehicle? You know, that's the kind, you have to look at it like that. Police drive
But I
vehicles.
didn't know it was that bad.
It is.
I didn't know it was that
is.
bad. I thought that there was back-end support. I thought because, I mean, like everybody else, I watch Third Watch and
Well, it's one or two things happen. They sell the someone sells the back end support at top dollar, or it breaks down, goes aside, and they buy something new.
when
correct?
you come on
That's what
shift
happens.
and they issue you equipment, when you finish shift and you turn that equipment back in, you are assuming that somebody's going to make sure that this is fit for purpose tomorrow.
No.
No.
Somebody else take that equipment and start the journey too.
One time.
So,
On the
so
spot.
here it is. You want to the public will argue, listen, look, we buy 10 vehicles for the police. But then that 10 vehicle is constantly moving about the place. The downtime might be an hour, if so long, in 24 hours.
Yeah, collecting licks.
So it goes on and on and on.
And again, I want to say this again for people to understand why I say I use it to made for purpose, fit for purpose, is because when a car is made or the camera system, the body cam, they have different amounts of stresses
Yeah,
that
correct.
they could take.
Yeah.
You need the real thing. You don't need
What is one of the tests they do with a firearm when a manufacturer makes it and wants to sell it to military and law enforcement? They beat the hell out of it.
You must.
They beat the hell because make sure that it's
From underwater to sun, and that's
in some jurisdictions, snow,
snow,
everything.
Because you need
all
to
the-
know
all the
that
facilities.
if in a firefight,
Yeah.
you have to rely on, and that's what we talking
And it
about
comes back
here.
again to what? Confidence. Confidence to carry out the duties effectively.
You want me drop something now? Something that the public may not know that I'm not under non-disclosure to say.
I want to ask you this: you go into your audit files?
I'm going into
You're going
my
into
root
your
files.
audit
I'm going
files.
to
I
my-
know you're audited. The
There was a
firearms.
number of pistols that were not working properly, that were jamming in the service. And men were traumatized coming back with it. And my recommendation when we were doing the training exercise with police, when they had to do requalification, which was put into place when I was there and taken out afterwards. But anyway, what I recommended was from the stations, I can give you a dry function test. I could audit it. I could check it dry. I could tell if it's function, how it should dry. I will not know if the firing pin is faulty, if the recoil spring is faulty, or so necessarily it's about to break. I may not know that until you shoot it.
Actually engageable.
Yeah.
So what I told them was, here what? Let's use, when these officers from our station have to go, let's use the station weapons to do training. Now, don't worry about wear and tear. If you use that constantly for training, it will not wear out in its lifespan. And some of those guns didn't see 10 rounds in their whole life. And they could take hundreds of thousands. So, use the guns in the station, let's make sure everything is working. So they're using the guns that they're actually on patrol with or so. I was told, no, you have to use the guns from the training academy because that's how they always do it. So the guns in the station don't know if it works or not until you engage in a firefight.
When you say they come back traumatized, you're saying that the first time they figure out that it's jamming is when they actually try to discharge a bullet.
Yep, and then you know what happens?
In a firefight.
And they have to take the same model and go back out on duty with it the next shift. You could operate under those conditions. Because I don't know how the men and women of our police service could operate under those conditions.
And when you look at all these intricacies, you will realize that persons need to go out there. We have a public to serve, you know, and we have a nation to protect. And if you do not have that, again, we go back to that word, confidence. Then you see officers not seeing crimes being committed. You see? And then the public now will have terrible things to say. If a small portion of these things were addressed, we would have been in a better place today. Let's go deeper into this. Basically, there are two gangs in Trinidad and Tobago. When I say two gangs, I want you to understand what I'm saying basically. The foundation from where they started, right? There's some gangs. But evolving from this, the two main entities, there are spurts all over the place. There are cells. They came from Lavantil East and West. And these are the two areas that we have persons in authority holding a very strategic position in government. Now the question must be asked, how come there were no mediation involved in this? How come there were no bringing together of persons and trying to diffuse situation by those persons? Two of them, the number one and the junior, East and West. You see? Sometimes you have to ask yourself, how come a great proportion of citizens who applied for asylum came from those areas? When the public see the gang situation escalating, take for instance the drive shooting on the highway when
Yeah.
the lady was killed in her own window.
Yeah.
When you see these things happening, then you ask yourself what it is really going on. And we had persons in government on both sides, still do. And what was done? Those are your constituents. What was done to effectively change that system? If you could answer that, I would like to hear.
So you're saying to me that before it even spill out into the streets and firefights and things, you're asking, why isn't there some social development master plan that would
Yes.
be dealing
Or
with the
interventions.
issues? You know that certain things fuel gang proliferation. Absence of fathers, poverty, inability to get jobs.
CNM.
Not to politicize the issue, but be being honest here.
Yeah, it's honesty we talking about.
Yeah,
This is not about bashing anybody.
No, we've been real.
Let's talk honesty, and if the public is listening, you know it's been honest. It's just honest conversation, right? If you,
But until somebody like you speak out, we will never know that all of that going on in the police service. You know, we will never know the circumstances under which the policemen and women are laboring in this country to deliver this illusion of protecting and serving when they themselves are not sure what exactly is going on around them.
If you look at this as well, it's a little different now in terms of the equipment, but it's the same thing. You remember, I mean, I guess some stations are still like this, but they're building nice big stations, so some stations are purpose-built, some too big for what they are. But anyway, they're building these big stations. It's no different than the days where rats ran over police officer foot, because it's the same thing except with in another way with equipment now. If you put somebody, no matter how well trained, no matter how well motivated they come out of the gate, you put them in an environment where they cannot operate and the system is frustrated. Their own police system is frustrating them. System of promotion, system, even some of these shifts. Some men are on too long. They have a lot of different security management issues.
The laws not supporting.
The laws aren't supporting them.
So you're lowering their morale inch by inch and day by day
must be broken.
But until you get to a point where they're phoning it in.
Yeah.
and let me just jump in here. Coming from the last commissioner of police, not the present one, who is trying to hold the unit together. The last one. Too much of play, too much of hands in the pot that could manipulate the behaviors and the doings of law enforcement. It's too much. It's as simple as that. You need to have a strong, and you see that's why some people they don't want to have strong leaders. They want to have leaders who would
Pliable,
say yes.
pliable people.
Yeah,
could do what you want them to do.
what
Right?
you want them to do. And when that is not the case, things happen.
So as a junior now, looking at that, you're looking at a leader who got the position
Coming back
because
to
they're
that,
pliable.
You come back to right where you just stop, eh?
Yeah.
Because they're pliable. You have a leader that you know that person got the position because they're pliable, and people under that person got the position because they're pliable. If you want to advance at all,
Sell out.
what you have because that's
Sell out.
the only option to you.
Sell
or
out.
you sit down frustrated the whole time, and that is what you do. You see, you
So
have
the whole culture with Trinidad and Tobago Police Service right now is a people that started off with the best of intentions, wanting to do, because that is not a profession that you take up just so.
Yeah.
no.
And I will tell you this, sir. A police officer was born. He was not created. You are born a police officer. They want your ability to serve and protect persons. You have to be a special kind of guy. Because, as I said, just imagine we're here right now. We're in a police station here right now, and you get a call, there's someone on my premises. I've seen 3 men. Officer, come fast, come fast. You jump in a vehicle and go. You do not know what
You're gonna
type
encounter.
What they have, how many of
equipment
them, what equipment they have.
and you go because that is what you
And your vest falling off because it's expired.
Office for and
I
you're
said
going
that
and you
years
want
ago,
to
the
you want to
only
serve the people.
And your vehicle overheating on the
The
way.
only people whose job it is, you kiss your wife and your children goodbye, and your job is to go out and put yourself in harm's way.
Yeah. And what do you do for us? You treat us like we're non-existent sometimes. And everything that happens in and around this country, you scapegoat the police. And I would say this over and over. If you give the police and other arms of national security the equipment, the right equipment to do their job, then and only then you should hold them accountable, because you would have provided them with everything.
So
I am putting you in a house here, I give you a bed, I give you a fridge, I give you a stove, and all these things, I give you everything here. But
You need the full support.
you need that support.
Full accountability
You need
comes
full
once you have
support.
full support.
Once you have the full
Exactly.
support,
You can have full accountability.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
now, if you want to say, you can bust somebody through it if they didn't do their job.
we
Because you're giving them
hobbling,
what
so
they
you
need.
say
Giving them
we are
what-
hobbling the men and women. We are making it difficult for them to do their jobs and then asking them why you're not doing the job.
You understand what I'm
Correct,
saying?
yeah.
And this is the problem. Society wouldn't understand because they did not sit in the seat. I realize some statements are being made too because persons didn't sit in the seat. But when you sit in that seat for such a long time, it's 30 years and more I'm there. So I have seen it all, you know. I have worked with systems that I know it's difficult to treat with, but for the purpose of serving the people, I did it. And this is why, one of the reasons for my decision, I cannot leave the people to die and be unprotected.
Nobody walks into a police station with a birthday cake. They say, hey, all you.
Happy
Let me happy birthday to all.
You know who
They walk
told me
with
that?
problems
You know who
every
told
day,
me
all
that
day.
years ago? Anne-Marie de Freitas. Anne-Marie Sabga de Freitas, Paul Sabga's sister.
Okay.
She told me the people up by her in Highland Park, she said they treat with the police. She said they know the names, they have the cell numbers. They every now and then they take them a potapilla and
Boss,
say, hey, police are part of the community and we need to treat them like
I used to go sometimes to a station on them. I went into one once and I bring some cupcakes. I say, that's for all you hear what? I see the day before I saw one, I tell you, stress and chaos in the station. I said, that's all you had yesterday. They watch me like I'm from Mars because they're so not accustomed to appreciation. They're so not accustomed to it.
I don't want to say the things that I've done in the past to help, but they
damn, boy.
need plenty more people to help. And without people saying, because people mightn't think, hey, you know what, adopt your police station.
Yeah.
You in this community, go in there and meet the person in charge. Say, listen, I in charge of the residents community down by me. This is my number. I can get your number.
And the station council thing has fallen apart, I believe. I have that thing. It's a good idea. It's good in theory, but it removes some of the personal stuff.
It's a great idea, and more persons need to really get involved so it could have a greater impact.
The problem,
Properly executed is a good idea.
that's it. It's execution. Also, to what you get, unfortunately, with all those public meetings, you'll get someone come in there, a few people sometimes, and all they come there to do for the whole time is just bash the police.
Yeah. And
that's all they come in to do.
You
Some
see,
of them.
take for instance, there are some station councils I could recall, I wouldn't want to call them out. They have repaired and provided vehicles for the police because they want the police to use those vehicles to serve their area.
The community, yeah.
You understand? And to me, that's a good job.
So if you had the responsibility, it's a big if you had the responsibility, you know what it would take to fix it from the bottom up and the top down.
And that's what I'm saying from day one, because I know what is required. You see, meeting and speaking to people, the only how you could really know what somebody wants is to have a conversation with them. Everybody might not want the same thing. Everybody needs and wants are not the same, you know? But as a community, you can tell from communicating with persons what they need and what they want. One man might need housing, the other might need clothing. One man might need food, the other might need housing. And that is how you see. I just want to live in peace. I just want to be protected. Can you do that for me? When you see, like I have seen the victims of crime, the blood on people's streets. You go in and see the taxi driver who just purchased his car short time ago. Gunshot wound to the head. He's lying in the vehicle. You have to go and tell a man's family, he's no longer with us. Could you understand? Could you imagine that? From which angle can you imagine that? If once we are elected, police officers must have constant dialogue with the council.
Are you telling the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service that your commitment politically is to not turn your back on them?
I cannot.
So that the things that you know, you will make sure that those things are addressed.
It must be done.
Roger, you're talking about certain things that I think keeps on missing the focus of the service currently.
Yeah.
You're talking about community policing. You're talking about the station councils.
Yeah.
Let's go into police youth clubs.
Let's go.
Those support services, if you look at internationally, that now makes up the core of policing because of how vital it is.
Because community policing lowers the temperature in the community.
We call it community policing. You know what they call it in the States?
Yeah.
Policing.
Policing. Because you know what they say? You remember Sesame Street? Since Sesame Street days, they tell you, A police officer is a person in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah,
person that
yeah.
you meet when you're walking down the streets. He's a person that you meet each day. So that started long ago, you know. So we making it look like it's rocket science.
I have a friend from school. I just call his name now and then, and he don't like it. But he was very involved in the cooling of the hotspots and working with the police. A guy by the name of Gregory Sloan Seal. I don't know if you know Gregory.
Yeah, I know sisters.
They lost Gregory to the private sector because he got fed up.
Yeah, he get fed up.
He get fed up because so many initiatives that were supported at the gestation stage, when it started to bear fruit, was abandoned.
Yeah.
So the public, in the interaction with the police and all of these systems, also start to lose confidence too. That you're coming to say this today, but how sure I am that...
Yeah. It's about letting the public understand. The public have a different understanding, and the public have sometimes a social media understanding. You see? And when you have a social media understanding, one person would say A is the right thing, B is the right thing. But then the question is, what gives this person the authority to say A is the right thing or B is the right thing when they knew nothing of anything?
Everyone's
But
everyone's
success leaves
expert now.
clues.
Right.
We could look where it works.
Right.
Look at New York City, the largest police department in the world. They came from police being hated in the 80s
To be loved.
now people
Yeah.
going in there in clothes stores to buy NYPD. You wear it
Everybody
NYPD.
wants
it. It's-
They
yeah.
want to wear. Huh?
Marketing.
No, but it's not just marketing
But
because you have to have substance behind it.
But
That can't just be marketing.
all of us have visited New York at some point in time, right? If you walk around, so Roger, you walk around the streets of New York, you realize, especially Manhattan, you realize how impossible it seems from a police perspective to police that kind of population.
Yeah.
But they have found a system to do it, and a lot of it is because they know the streets, they know their route, they know the people on the route.
But the system
they have to do
working.
that.
The system working. The people happy with the system. They've lowered the crime. I mean, New York City was the murder capital of the world, and now it's the tourist capital of
London,
the world.
then New York, and look how they have adapted to their situation, not by saying, well, we accept crime at this rate. No, they have adapted in a way to bring down crime and develop their systems.
Crime must never look like the norm
Correct.
to any country or any society. It could never be.
Failure
Well,
could never be acceptable.
Right. And let me tell
Crime
you
is
this.
a symptom of failure.
While we're discussing these things here, the failure of the past is evident, you know. But it is often channeled down the pathway of the police officer or the police
What
on
you
the
mean,
whole.
man? Tell me more.
All right. It's the failure to really provide for law enforcement to do their job have resulted in failure of some initiatives. But instead of
Same government and leadership not supporting the men and women in the police service, making the policemen look and women look bad.
right,
And the things outside of policing.
they might support again, in order for us to really arrest the situation. You need not to sit down with this one and that one and come up with these things. You know. You need to find out from the ground officer what are the
Stakeholders.
challenges that you
Really
have
stakeholders.
on the roadway, in the streets, when you have to cross the drain.
So they're not
when you-
included in the conversation?
You see,
People planning for people without consulting with them?
When you have when you have a certain position politically, administratively, they will sit down and they will plan. Now, and this is where the disconnect. I know Roger was a man, no matter what rank he held, he was on the ground.
Right.
So he kept connected to it. But there's a lot of officers when they reach a certain rank ground. Some do it, some keep still connected. But some when they reach a certain position, sit down and isolated.
But you blame them in a circumstance where you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Well, that's
you
how some of
blame
them become. That's how some get promoted or end up on top because of again being pliable, right? So, at some point it becomes. I think at some point it becomes self-preservation in the service.
do you let me throw it at you all then. Three of us we did the commissioner's exam. We say we did we applied to be the commissioner of police. All right. So Alexander, you came first. I came second. Sanawus came third. Why it is that the government of the day now must choose out of us.
Based on When there's a clear
who
ranking.
they want. Well, then why do you have?
Why have
Why
an
have the
exam?
exam?
Then
What is the
Just pick
exam?
somebody. Just pick somebody.
so that's what I'm saying.
What is
So
the
then
point of the exam?
Why do you have the exam? And why do you have a police service commission?
If the government, and the thing is, the way it works is that the government can reject the three of us.
That's what
and
I'm saying.
Actually, next three.
And actually,
Next down the line.
and ask for number 10.
So, and you know what that tells me straight out is this. All right, we have the raw academic scores,
Yeah.
but now let's take the political aspect into consideration,
So
which
then-
means you're politicizing it.
So
and
then,
politics.
so
so
then
then-
let us include in the exam our political
How
preferences.
pliable are you? How pliable are you?
Politically.
That should be it. That should be a question. How pliable are you?
It comes down to that. That the
comes down to
government, and you know something. Let's be real. The government, meaning the prime minister. The prime minister will pick the commissioner. That's what it breaks down to when you come at the end of the line. And the prime
Because
minister
the
makes
whole
decisions.
system
Right.
is just convoluted to make it appear that it is independent, but at the end of the day, it is still a political decision. So the system not making sense. If it's not the best man for the job getting the job,
All right.
what's the point?
All right. So then, let me say this. So, Alexander, you get through. I am the prime minister, and I said I want him. He was number 8. Mr. Alexander, tell me what I can say to you for you to tell me no. I'm just asking you.
That's a good point as well.
Take your time. You take your time, study. You can take all day, all night if you want to. Tell me what I can say to you. If I tell you jump high, you're going to get basketball shoes, proper socks, and things under your feet to go as high as you can.
If that is how I got the job.
Because you know you're number 8.
If
when you
that
get
is
the
how
job.
I got the job.
Because you're number 8 and you got the job. So, when can you tell me no?
Never.
So
I
then-
belong to you.
So then are you serving me or are you serving the people? Go ahead.
But that's clear.
That's what it
Your,
becomes.
no, your
That's what
point
it
is
becomes.
made. Your point is made. So I'm asking you now.
Man.
Besides the overhaul the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service needs,
Yeah.
because you are putting information in public space that we've never heard before.
Yeah,
You are putting 30 years.
yeah. Of experience. Totally. On the ground from the word go.
Has it been improving or deteriorating?
It has improved, it has deteriorated. It has improved, it has deteriorated. And so we go. Now, there was some commissioner of police fantastic in the delivery. Effort, everything, trying to get persons connected together. And then once the politics started to enter, and the hands started to feel, it's like someone holding the brain of the person who's the commissioner of police and squeezing it like this, so and moving him. And once you become a puppet, then you forget how to serve the people, and you're serving an individual or a party. We need to move away from that system. Now, persons might try, I've seen persons trying to design things differently, right? But with the same effect. Give law enforcement, give the Defense Force, the Coast Guard, give the fire services and other agencies the necessary equipment that they need, the resources. They have up-to-date equipment that requires you to have software. But here what happens too, you buy the software when you get the equipment, but you didn't realize it was a 2013 software and the equipment that you bought, but we're in 2025. So you get all excited and all of that. And you have the equipment, yes, but the software is outdated. And you know, persons didn't understand when I said we operating in 18 something. All right? Now, we must revisit. And you must give kudos to those who understand. You have to revisit some of the ideas that we came up with before. I cannot see in 2025 teacher burners who have one leg in a home having an issue, and we still need to tell her, welcome to the station. When is she expected to arrive? When is she expected to arrive? What day? If we are saying that the service people oriented, people serving, then let us reach the lady take care of her report and give her a feedback.
So when a man or woman run to a station in a panic, barefoot in a rip up short pants,
Yeah.
and hey, no short pants in here, and you have to have on shoes, leave. You know, you understand the
Yeah.
kind of nonsense that
Okay, but
passes.
what
This
I
old
am,
colonial type
no,
of
but
thing.
what I am getting, right, is and what Roger's saying is that if the police officers were motivated to work,
Yeah.
they themselves would take initiative
Yeah.
to solve those
But
problems.
I want to ask you this,
Yes.
right, and I'll put it to Roger
Yeah,
as well.
go ahead, tell me.
How much initiative can it take sometimes? Because you will have the constable that sees somebody coming. And I just think constable as an example. Someone comes in, a woman comes in ripped clothes, in obviously in distress.
Yeah.
She's barefoot, and he would turn around and say, "Hey, what up, ma'am? Come, what happened so?" And a senior may pass and say, "Hey, how she in here barefoot?"
Yeah.
Around that,
Right.
that could.
and,
that-
and this is where customer service training continues to take place in the service.
And that's
up to
that
the
is
time
number one.
left. Because we want the reception area. It's no longer call it charge room. Eh?
the reception
The
area. It's a reception
area
area.
is the showroom of
What,
the police
what was
service.
what was the purpose of the name change? What was it supposed to do?
Well, they didn't want it. It's the charge room.
It's harsh
You come to
language.
get charged. You came
It's
to make
harsh
a report.
language.
It's a reception. we want to hear you first before we determine whether
Under
you.
Gibbs and Iwatsky, they were using civilians to support the police in the station.
Right.
That still goes on.
In certain areas, really.
Was that
Very, very minor,
effective?
man.
It was placed on a population who didn't understand it too early.
No, but to the police, did it bring a different, I don't know, a different energy to the station?
And I will tell you again, when you introducing things to a society that didn't have it before, you introduce it gradually, so everybody start to accept it. But if you dump it on us, we are confused. The first thing you say is, "What do you bring them civilian here for?"
Proper integration
Yeah,
needs
I
to be
wonder
done.
what's going on here. You see,
Because your last
trying to
sacred,
replace
your
we-
last
Yeah.
sacred space is the station.
because your last sacred space. And then, as you speak about sacred space, there are a number of things we can do. Right now, we have virtual courts at the station. Why? We need this spacing, you know. Well, I say we, but my colleagues there, I'm no longer there. They need this spacing. The space available. The court needs to be at the court, and the police station needs to be the police station. I think it will help a lot. And another thing is, we have a lot of police vehicles. Well, police vehicles are parked all over the place. And they need to think outside the box at times. So, this is my colleague. He's from Tunapuna. I am from San Juan. And the vehicles are down. But you have two vehicles. His vehicle need a left door. Mine need a right. Why don't you take the dismantled parts and put on those vehicles there that might go for auction, as the case may be, and give us those vehicles? So my vehicle get a door, I'm back up and running. His vehicle get a door, he's back up and running.
No, you see that there, what is an insult to the people of Trinidad and Tobago is those police vehicle graveyards. That's obviously
he's talk-
because it's obviously because certain people want to sell new
Vehicle,
parts
yeah.
and new vehicles.
What he's speaking
they
about
don't
is-
want you to repurpose. They
What
don't
Roger's
want you to
speaking
fix
about,
and repair.
you know,
and-
he's speaking about there. What Roger's speaking about is what happens in private security. That's for big companies. What he's speaking about, it's not rocket
No,
science.
and
It's
it's
not.
No,
It's done.
because
It's
no,
done.
because in a private company, the bottom line is instructed
Vehicle
by,
have to go.
No, but the bottom line is instructed by the cost of doing business.
Correct. So
But in the police service, it's not.
and that becomes a problem too, because we are all
So,
taxpayers.
so this is why I was asking you earlier. If you decentralize the authority, and one of the things that should be, if you want to be moving up the ranks to become the commissioner, and I give you a district, and you're responsible for $50 million in equipment.
You're talking about
In fact,
even more independence in terms
I've
of
given you
budgeting and so.
authority, accountability, responsibility, support. Every time he says equipment, in my mind, I think it as part of a bigger support that the police service need.
Let me, one of the things I would do, if I'm given the authority, our jails have a lot of persons. I understand sometimes over 50, 60 mechanics, right? Why not open up a center up there to assist in the repairing of those vehicles that we have now? And you're giving that person No, you remember we're going to separate violent offenders
From
the
non-violent.
non-violent offenders. They must not sit in the same corridor. They
Correct.
must not sit in the
Correct. I
same
agree
room.
with that.
They must not be in the same
You can't
space.
tell me a man there for fraudulent check next to a murderer.
Yeah, or
Because he'll become a murderer.
or a man for maintenance. He's in the no.
No, yeah, correct.
We're going to separate that. So here we are. If I can get the mechanics at the jail, part of their community service, because you must ask what community service is being done at the jail. We can have them work on these vehicles, repair them. We'll give you
Time off for good behavior.
time off for good behavior, and you're working,
A stipend,
you get
yeah.
a stipend.
Go in your
And
bank
when you're
account.
leaving the jail system,
In bank account and
at least you can have something
to start off. Because
yourself.
when you leave jail with nothing, where they going? Right back into
right
the gang.
back into the system.
Because they have
So
nothing.
that's something that we're looking to create.
So in a perfect world, we need a Minister of National Security who understands those problems.
You have to.
Because every one of the organizations under the Minister of National Security have pretty much the same problems. May not be as bad as the
May not
police
be as
service,
bad, yeah.
but I mean, like we talk about the fire service, a third of the fire stations have no truck. Most of the trucks have no equipment.
Look at
The
immigration as well.
Nobody
Yeah,
fire
you know,
officers
gosh.
have no self-contained breathing apparatus, so they
Yeah.
can't go in the fire.
What
to out
one
the
of
fire.
the officers said, the fire officers, he said, "Put a wet rag around his mouth and rent a fire." Like, if you say that to somebody in a first world country, they'll think you're joking or you're mad. One of you two.
But there's a lawsuit. There's
A lawsuit. That's
That's a $50 million lawsuit. That's
you
a
say
easy-
law. I can't get past the insanity of it. Just think about the
okay,
insanity.
so
of
I'm
it.
saying that you need a Minister of National Security, not just a political tool rewarded with a post.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Minister of National Security should be somebody like the Attorney General. You must have an understanding.
You have
Of national security
You
at
have
at
to.
the base level.
And
Marvin
listen,
Gonzalez as the Minister of National Security now, what's the purpose of him if he's not from...
He's a police.
No, I swear to you, I am not trying to...
Yeah?
Because Gonzalez was not a police officer.
Yeah, he was. He
He's a police
didn't
officer.
stay very long.
He was a. Oh, okay.
You know, and you know, so I respect the brother, and I understand what he needs to say and what he needs to do. But coming from where I came from, I understand it all, not just part thereof.
No, I want to say, he is one of the ministers in the PNM. I can't find a bad...
No,
I don't think he was very... I don't think he delivered as a Minister of Public Utilities, but I know for a fact... how you speaking here, people can't just judge you in the performance of your job if your hands tied.
Yeah.
So they can't know if you're gagged.
He's a
So
police.
your hands tied, you can't deliver, you're gagged, you can't tell people why you can't deliver, and the people just looking on and say, but what the hell, we paying you on the end of the
You see, we often make excuses for non-performance, right? But the easiest thing to do is to blame the agency under your command,
Yeah.
and not you.
We blame Dong and Trinidad. We don't blame.
Yeah,
up.
we don't blame up. We blame down. You understand? So you remember they say sometimes the fish they started rotting from the head. But sometimes the thought is, you know what? All right, the fish started rotting from the head. I'll blame the body, and that is our new thing. That has been the thing for years. We blame everybody down and nobody else.
When I was in corporate security, the chairman of the company had a method that worked every single time. Executive chairman, COO. The COO is the first one. If a security officer gets trouble, the COO is the first one getting it.
Yeah.
Then the deputy, then the chief, then the deputy. Until it reaches that person, you're making sure you're infallible from the top. He starts at the top. The CEO is going to hear about it in a large corporate company and be blame fit until he finds the problem going down the line. When you start blame down, you get nowhere.
Okay, but I want to ask one question.
You have to blame from
We
on
reached
top.
the halfway point in this conversation. I want to ask one question. Given the opportunity to fix it, is it fixable?
Yes, it is.
Definitely. Most definitely fixable.
It is. It is fixable. It is. It will take some doings because crime is a dynamic thing. And you know what we have done? We have failed to keep up to date with how things changing. We have persons being deported back into this country. They bring a new type of crime. and all
Dynamic
these things.
change.
Before you go, I know I say the ad counter. Before you go on the ad, I'll just make a comment to piggyback on that.
Yeah.
The reason they're outrunning police with their development, Police is public sector, crime is private sector.
So we need to listen.
Interesting twist.
Yeah, we need to really, if we're looking at crime and getting it to a level that it is totally manageable, we need to give these resources available, both technical and otherwise.
So you want to look at it from legislation management, from national security support, right down the line.
Right down the line. Even
equipment audit, equipment support and management.
You know what I left for last? The compensation packages for my officers. And yesterday when I mentioned that, you know, as a soldier, and you would know that too, as a soldier, if you don't attain a certain rank, at 45, Alexander, at 45, you're a young man ready for war.
Go home.
You got to go home.
Go home.
So
go
let
home.
me say you don't, the security firms, that they didn't hire you, they fold up and all of that. Where does that leave you?
What you trained to do?
So then, and they normally say, well, a soldier trained to kill, blah, blah, blah. If the criminal element get hold of you, and you are placed on the streets, then they have an asset.
Correct.
So it's
a resource paid by the state.
It still comes down to that whole social matrix. You have to have a government in office that understands that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That we are training a killer.
Yeah.
We better track him right to the end. We better make sure that we have an investment here. And that if we misplace that investment, it can bite us.
So the military has an intel unit that does keep track of certain individuals when they leave. However, it's so limited. Again, we go to resources.
No, when you say
it's
keep
so
track,
limited.
I don't want to just I don't want to monitor, you know. When I say keep track, I want to make sure that you coming in for a little, if things good, and you can message me and say, nah, boy, things good, I'm on top of my bills, life nice.
Correct.
But if I catch in my
aspect.
tail, I need somebody to come to people and say, hey, I ain't getting employed, and you know.
Yeah, no, it's a crisis that is. There's a lack of resources by the military in terms of those type of things, but they could waste money on other things that are not necessary. But you see, these social things, those are very important. That comes down to the core. It comes down to how you take care of the people.
If you are not focused on the quality of life of the men and women under you,
better quality of life you always look for.
Because you're not going to get what you want. You're not going to get blood from a stone.
Yeah.
Correct.
But if you give people a reason to want to wake up in the morning and go to work.
Yeah.
Motivation, just basic motivation.
Yeah.
No, but I'm talking about when you know that this is not just a work, this is a career.
It's a career.
I see in myself, somebody tell me, the last man they said that man was supposed to dead in that uniform. The last man they thought would have leave the police service was you. They tell me that. They say they were supposed to bury you in that uniform as an old man in that uniform because
the love for country, you have to make a decision that you know you can change things, and the timing is right because
you see, Roger's about service. You know?
Yeah, it's about service.
We're gonna take a short break and we're gonna come back right back into this. Yeah.
This is a call to the nation. One by one, let's do it together.
I said it. Michelle, I ain't gonna water again.
Standing strong through any weather. Follow the light of the PEP. Cause we could build a better place for every queen in every race. Together we could triumph over anything we face. So one by one, two by two.
Save TNT. Vote PEP.
Unleash the power of truth with Street 919 FM. Dive into the raw, unfiltered world of politics with our cutting-edge commentary and fearless analysis. We don't shy away from the tough issues. We confront them head on. The Street 919 FM, the #1 election station.
So we're back inside. I'm here with Senior Superintendent. The title don't go with you?
No.
Nah, I don't keep that title.
But isn't it yours to keep?
I'm a commissioner. I listen. I'm a people for the people.
I hear that, but I'm asking you, isn't that your title to keep? Because they will forever. My
You
phone.
know they will take
I
it.
Well, they still
update his name in my phone
Yeah.
from Sergeant Alexander to Inspector.
I don't want to say. I
The
think
last
I
update-
still was inspected.
I have him as
Yeah,
inspector.
think so.
They take me to the limits. So we were just discussing something there, right?
But before you go, I just want to tell the public listening, we're taking calls.
Yeah.
We're taking your calls at 342-0081 and 466-5391.
Let me also share with you this. Sometimes I went to various schools and speak to the young boys and girls, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. I've spoken to non-citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, and they too feeling what the majority of the country is feeling. So I have a bully in my class. So I just frightened when I walk in at the pastoral track, and there's always this fear
Permeating society.
fear of crime. There are some persons down at the southwestern peninsula that staying from their homes and seeing boatloads of persons coming in and running on shore and all of that because of our borders
Porous.
porous, unsecured. And you know what we have done?
Yes, hello?
Hello, we always do this. This is a technique I don't know how. I don't know if Mr. Nahus will understand it.
Call it.
Leave your doors open. Leave your doors. So you have a house,
Call it.
right?
Hello, good morning.
Oh, yeah, well.
Yes, Mr. Alexander, good morning. Listen to the program, interesting program. I just wanted to find out, I saw something on social media where three individuals were being interviewed yesterday with reference to national security and stuff. Why Mr. Alexander was invited to that meeting as well?
Who
That
was
is my
being
only
interviewed?
question.
3 persons.
TNT3, mainstream media, as usual.
Yeah.
Oh no,
They
because
would have
they wanted to have
interviewed-
a show to talk about him. That's why they didn't invite
Yeah.
him.
That is what I'm seeing, and I think
That's why we're having
I'm so
this-
That is a great honor. They have a meeting without him to talk about him.
Listen, that is why we have this extra hour show this morning, because I believed he should have had a chance to also say his say, but I realize he's not even interested in answering that.
I'm not. I'm interested in serving the people.
Yeah.
And it must be a genuine respect for everybody. All right? You call us still online?
No, we just.
Oh, okay.
But I was going to ask you something earlier. And some people treat this, and I don't know why, some people treat this as if it's controversial. And I want to come back to the border issue with you just now. That call interrupted. In fact, we will hold off on the calls for the next 15 minutes. So by about 8:20, you could start sending in your calls. And I apologize to the callers calling now, but I want to give Roger the opportunity to get some of this information in the public space. So we can go back to the border issue, because that is mission critical to what we're doing. But I want to ask you this.
Tell me.
Extra compensation for officers based on performance.
That's a fantastic idea. And not just fantastic. How would you feel? And this will connect. So I am a regular police officer. You are special reserve police. Eh? You are doing everything that I am doing. But there's a different compensation package. Yeah? In time of need, I call on you. You support me tremendously. The time has come for us to bring those persons
Into the police service.
into the police service
but I want- but
and
what I-
benefit from it.
No, but
In the
listen,
long
I
term.
have a very good friend. He's
Yeah.
an SRP.
Yeah.
He developed a heart condition.
Shit.
Man selling his possessions
To
for
make
his,
ends
to
meet.
make because there is no medical support for him.
Yeah.
So I want to bring this in with the SRP program. The SRP program had a certain purpose when it came out. And
Yeah.
in old law,
It have outlived the purpose.
far outlived. You know that
It's
SRP.
no longer
You know
that.
the SRP program is. It's for two things. And again, Roger could chime in and correct me if I'm wrong. Right? I always open to correction. But One, it is to boost service in a time of need or so we can get some special reserve. It's also for specialized roles. For example, you're a doctor and you want to serve your country.
Come in.
Come in. The compensation is not going to make up what
Okay,
a
so
doctor
you're
should,
saying
you know.
that is what that's for part-timers. It's like
Right.
a,
It's supposed to be.
Supposed to be.
But because
But now-
of how the service is going, we definitely need them on board.
Yeah.
We need them. And it will, they have already, they are not totally trained in everything, but they are trained. So now we can put them together. Look, the SRPs.
what training they don't have?
Minor
But-
things. They
but
have,
they-
they have to finish.
but they-
minor
and when,
things.
and when they
But they're
transition,
on the road, like
yeah, but
telling
when,
you,
but when they,
they out
but
there.
when they
That's
transition, they go to
minor
they go
things.
to the academy for the
Minor
for what,
things.
few
Finishing.
weeks
So
or whatever.
yeah,
Finish up, yeah.
sometimes
So you
6
come up
minor-
with a
6
finishing
weeks or
program
something.
to transition your entire SRP squad into normal
Yeah.
police.
Normal.
So
squad.
tell me this: the SRP program will allow people without the prerequisites to join the police service, right?
Yeah.
But you still have them with the same authority,
Same
the
authority.
same weapon, the same
Yeah.
patch. Oh, God,
There is no difference.
it's no difference at this point in time.
Jesus Christ, everything is a problem there.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this again.
That's
What
it.
I meant was, and I want to pin this down. Police officers going above and beyond the call of duty. Police officers working hard and delivering, as opposed to if I have 9 people in a station and 2 officers working very hard and delivering, shouldn't their compensation package reflect it at the end of the month?
Yeah, it should.
Shouldn't there be bonus systems? I tell you, you bring out if you take $10 million worth of drugs off the street, I think that once that is properly prosecuted, and,
Look,
and
what-
you should get a percentage.
So we give him.
I want to know because it works in the private sector.
So people calling Crime Stoppers, if somebody is prosecuted successfully, they get a reward. But a police officer who went out there, put his life
Correct.
away, arrest them, have them prosecute. And I'm not saying arrest and charge.
Yeah.
Prosecuted, they're convicted or
Correct.
so. And the police officer.
Due process.
Due process,
The
correct.
entire due process works.
the
You
entire-
have to do a proper arrest. You're not going to benefit if the arrest was faulty.
Correct.
And the prosecution failed.
So that's
But then,
motivational.
we can't. Let me tell you where the difficulty will arise, because you make that arrest and is a fantastic bonus to you if you get it, but the court case drag on for 12 years.
They have to go back in the court system
So you
to be
have to
able
deal
to.
with that.
Yeah.
So you need a prime minister who understands that the court system cannot continue to operate the way it is.
Correct.
No, we'll go deeper and deeper and deeper into chaos. Now,
Our penal system failing. Right now, prisons officers, I hear they're ready to block the road.
Well, and they found a gun in prison. I found a pistol
Okay,
in
so
prison.
the penal system failing, the justice system failing, the police service collapsing, and we're still talking that crime is the issue.
Crime is the
If crime was the issue, why are we not fixing the things that deal with crime in our society?
Well, you see, this is the
that's the
issue.
question of the day.
The issue with police is this: police will get blamed for everything,
Exactly.
right? But the police, like, okay, for example, and they're trying in certain aspects, like the IETF has the Hearts and Minds unit that does amazing
Right.
work in the sport of Spain, amazing social development work.
Yeah.
And I agree with them doing a part of the community, so, but why is it entirely on them? They are doing the Ministry of Social Development job. They are doing a lie. They are doing the ministry job.
Because what I realize they're doing is they're leaving gaps in the system, and when you see the gap, and if you are a public-spirited person, you say, "Ah, you know what, I'll do it."
Yeah.
But then they will leave you there doing it, and now that's not part of your
And then
job.
you get blamed when the other person job fails. The job you're supposed to be doing fails.
So we need a prime minister who could look at the whole picture.
Yeah. It's a holistic approach. to it.
Yeah.
Appoint somebody in charge of the Ministry of National Security who, with a proper playbook,
Yeah.
this is the plan.
This is the plan.
This is how we're going to tackle these things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So we're going to tackle this with fire, this with customs, the Coast Guard, this with the army, this is the purpose with the
Everybody,
army.
yeah.
Right? We have a plan. You're going in there with a plan. Because I hear people talk like, once you have common sense, you could fix anything. That's nonsense.
No.
You need a plan. You have to, at some point, people say, oh, you don't need a manifesto, you can just want to. That's nonsense.
You know, we're afraid
You
to-
have to be able to tell me, if you're going to give me water 24/7, what's your plan? I say capture, hold, treat, distribute. I tell you where the water falls, and I tell you where I capture it. I tell you how I capture it. I tell you how I treating it, how I repurposing it. I tell you the consumption data. I tell you the rainfall data, so that you know that I know what I'm doing.
An effective plan toppled by an effective strategy.
Correct. You need strategy and tactics.
So you
That's
imagine You bring a Minister of National Security, an effective Commissioner of Police. You have a Social Development Minister who has to work in tandem with them.
They cannot work apart. And you see, this is what I was
Has
trying to
to
get
work
to.
in tandem
You
with
have to
them.
work.
We're in
and
silos right
You're
now.
singing the same song.
You must.
You know one thing we always miss, I think? We always miss this. We could have all the plans, we could get everything together. We cannot be afraid, whoever's in power, whoever's in government, cannot be afraid to go through the 6 months, go through everything, have everything 100%, this is it. And then they realize, you know, we put in action, it failed here, what?
Let's
Tried it,
do
we failed, we have to do it.
Let's do it.
We have to repurpose
Yeah.
the whole thing. We keep doubling down on mistakes.
You must.
No, that's a dead horse theory.
You must.
That's
Yeah,
the dead horse.
You must monitor,
Assess.
assess, measure
Correct.
But your measurable metrics along the way.
implementation
You-
of everything that you do.
Alongside
Correct.
implementation, and especially in massive change like we're talking, you have to have measurable metrics. You have
Yeah.
to say, this is what I'm looking
Measure
for.
what is measurable, make measurable what is not.
Exactly.
I need to know things like the quality of life index for the police officers is improving. I need them to fill out
You need to have your
forms.
KPIs, you need to have,
I want my officers submitting a quality of life index every month.
And it
You
must,
tell
I
me.
know what to tell you. It mustn't be a 5-year plan, you know.
Nah.
Tell me
It
now,
can't be a 5-year plan.
day-to-day is a day-to-day plan.
You have to know what is happening. So, you know what? We have the mic this low. We're not hearing Alexander too well. Let's raise the mic.
You said
Oh, you know what? We hear him too loud. Push back
Lower
the
the
mic.
you said
Lower the
earlier
mic.
different districts have different needs.
And that is correct.
And we have to make sure that we don't create a one-size-fits-all and try to force that on everybody.
But that's the problem a lot of times. People are trying to make a one-size-fits-all. I don't understand how dynamic law enforcement
it
particularly is.
is. It is. It is.
But with that vision,
Yeah.
we could transform it fast.
Fast. And you know what? When persons
One more thing we left out. Cleaning up the police service.
All right.
Internal affairs.
Right. I cannot sit here, and I will never, and say that the police service, the Professional Standards Bureau, the Police Complaints Authority, they are not performing their role, and I can't say that. You know why? Because we have seen, out of all the different institutions, the one that you're sure about is the police service. I will tell you why. There are many persons committing offenses in different private sectors and all these things. What do you hear about them?
No, they're nothing.
They move and they go on.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
a man keeps some money in a bank, he might just move him from bank A to bank B and tell him put him in the bank. And no, the police service have done its job in the sense to investigate, and they would have put persons before the court to be dealt with according to law.
Officers you're talking about.
Officers, yeah.
Errant officers, right?
Well,
Officers
Well,
who may have,
who
who
may
may have, who
okay,
may
yeah,
have.
yeah.
allege, yeah.
Tell it, yeah.
Because I want to tell you this. That is the next part of the conversation.
It's easy to allege.
A man is innocent
Until
until
proven
proven guilty. But yet, in Trinidad and Tobago, everybody that is placed before a court is deemed rogue.
They're guilty before the court of
But-
public
but
opinion.
Well, okay, because
here
the
is-
justice system don't work fast enough, so
Right.
we're taking the charge
Yeah.
and we're going with that.
But here is, how much persons have you seen where evidence is put before the court, they are in fact convicted? That is why we need to
Was it rate 9%?
revisit the laws, yeah, and put the thresholds in the right levels, so that the persons who is placed there will only reach there when we almost
Correct.
sure that they are ready and they
Do
will be
you
correct,
agree? Do you agree? There's a saying: strong fences make good neighbors. Do you agree that to set up robust and dynamic internal affairs like they have in New York City, do you agree with that or not?
I agree with
Their job is to prosecute
right.
police.
Yeah, I agree with proper legislation that can treat with that. But it must be monitored, because we don't want, just like in the system, person will say, well, a police officer don't like Alexander C. Come.
Yeah.
You have to understand, we must have that evidential threshold available.
Right.
And then and only then. Don't go on because somebody say and you didn't have
Because
it.
it's easy to charge somebody, you know.
No,
It's
but
easy.
No,
It's easy to
but-
charge somebody.
okay,
but
no.
can you convict them?
No, but I hear you, and I'm saying this, right? Now, I wanted to make a suggestion to you later on in the show, but it came to this.
Really?
Because I've been saying a long time that the clock is what is missing from the conversation. And
Yeah.
if you arrest somebody,
Time frame.
you should have 24 hours to charge them or let them go. If you charge them, you have 6 months to begin the prosecution, or you have
drop
to,
it, yeah.
or you have to drop the charge. If the prosecution begins, you have 1 year for civil matters, 2
And
years
as you
for
said, the
criminal
threshold,
matters,
for evidence.
or the case collapses. Yes? Do you agree with that?
I agree with that.
The time is important, but
Justice must be swift.
as he said,
In this
the
country,
evidence
you could sue a cheese paste sandwich, you know,
Yeah.
and damage a man's reputation by a lawsuit.
and for 10 years that case will go on.
That case is going
And
on
damage reputation for 10
damaging
years.
your reputation. I saw
For 10
what you
years.
put out about David Lee. I saw what
Yeah,
you
that
put
was-
out
yeah.
about David Lee, because it looked like that was in an entirely political situation. So it just damaged the man. What happened if it didn't collapse before the election? It's 21 more days.
Yeah.
It's 21 more days to the election. What happened if he would have gone into the election
when that happened,
with that charge
when that
hanging
happened
over?
with David Lee, it was a bit of a panic among certain attorneys. And
If a police officer proffers a charge on somebody,
yeah,
I shouldn't say but continuously, if their track record, you monitoring their track record and you realize that this person is abusing their power.
charging without results, let me put it that way.
Abusing their power.
Yeah. No, then they got people like
Who makes the decision to
To
charge?
disap-
Who makes the decision to charge?
Well-
The police officer lays the charge, the police officer makes the arrest, and somebody else lays the charge.
No. The police officer would normally do the investigation. And he should always, that is my belief, seek the advice from the director of public prosecution. Because it's from that angle you are given that authority, because most of the times you will see the prosecution team will come from the
DP office.
DP office. So he having knowledge
Early in the
and
game.
understand.
Early.
And you see, this is the problem that we were trying to change when I was there. The beginning of your investigation should always include persons from the team,
DPP, yeah,
from the DPP's team.
always.
Once you think that there is enough evidence to bring a charge against somebody, you should have the legal team involved in the conversation.
From day one.
Because they are the ones that are going to have to prosecute.
But we're going into the same thing as well. DP office now understaffed. And unequipped.
No,
So
no,
we
no. I absolutely am aware. We watched them pay 3 years rent for a building that they didn't consult the man.
yeah, boy. Yeah.
You rent a building for
And
you put
no
me in a
idea.
fishbowl. The man say, put me in a fishbowl. And the point was made when
No, but I mean, we're looking at, for example, the Lee thing is an important thing for the nation to understand.
Yeah.
He had all the evidence showing, hey, everything is above board here. He still got charged, and there was a no case submission. They had no case, but it still damaged the reputation for what? A few years.
Yeah.
So I'm not just your reputation.
And that can happen to anybody, you know.
No, but not just your reputation. I want to tell you this. Any kind of lawsuit, any kind of charge affects you physically, affects you
Correct,
mentally,
correct.
anxiety, stress. It is, and stress damages the human body. You could never undo
It takes
those
years of your
things.
life. It
No,
takes
it's
years of your
difficult.
life.
You can't undo those things. So you need to make sure that you have people in positions of authority, because it's not just about set them free and wild up themselves and people must afraid police.
We
and
need to.
you need a system where people respect the law, not afraid police.
We need to.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good way to put
We
it.
need to stop, as a people, concentrate on survival, protection for our citizens, a better quality of life, and stop attacking and looking for points from our political opponents. I cannot
Yeah,
understand.
No, but you
I
see, you
cannot
say
relate
that,
to that.
No, but you say that, and I understand what you're saying, but then I can't resist. I can't resist saying that you must deal with apples and apples and oranges and oranges. You can't deal with apples and oranges. If Kamala Prasad says, say we're going to provide doctors in the
Yeah.
communities for the elderly, and then her opponent comes and says, we will give them virtual doctors. And I ask, how is that going to work?
How? Yeah.
How you checking the blood pressure? How you checking the sugar? How you
So my aunt who may not be able to see well and may not have the technical capacity or ability to treat with
Boss.
this whole voter thing.
Boss.
So here the doctor telling she said, well, how you feeling? I'm feeling good.
All right, you're good.
Close your left eye and open your. It's a set of conversation.
How you
I am
test
amazed to see how that will
the
work.
first thing you go into a medical
Blood
center,
pressure test.
the
Blood
vitals,
pressure, yeah.
vitals. Check your vitals.
Check your vitals.
How you checking the vitals? So everybody now gonna have to go out and invest. You're gonna tell me that they have apps, no problem.
Yeah.
But I buy things to add to the computer.
Not only that.
And I have to operate it properly because if I don't know how to put on a blood pressure cuff, I'm not going to get a
incorrect
proper
reading.
reading.
I think what is happening here now too is that you might have to employ a nurse. So she will be at your side whenever the virtual call comes. It have to be because I cannot see it.
I
But it's
There's-
ridiculous. It's a ridiculous
Yeah,
suggestion. So I'm saying
it's
to you,
crazy.
when you tell me just now, that I can't score political points because Kamala tell me that too. You know, she said
Yeah.
keep some of them guns in the holster.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's nonsense. And the people must be able to say, okay, come on, we've strayed into ridiculous now.
Yeah, you've gone from silly to ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And you can't just keep making policy by VAPs.
Yeah.
Nobody thought it through. He didn't consult anybody. The Minister of Health, well, he's not really a doctor. They don't have a doctor anyway in the PNM. There's somebody going to say, oh, boss, that ain't going to work.
Which doctor? I don't know. I don't know what kind of
So
doctor
I'm
talks
asking you because there's a big policy to announce.
Let us skip a beat. Let's skip a beat. Let's discuss the marijuana situation. Now, to me, two things can happen here. It's either we make it totally legal, because as it stands right now, we have 4 trees in a home. Right? so let's go down that road. 4 trees in a home. So
10 people in the home.
right. Like 4 by 10.
So you can have 40.
Allow 40 trees.
Right.
If you have-
So we have
if
a
you-
forest. Right? We have a forest. Explain to me how, in God's name, we plant our trees. Tell me how it could end up to be 30 grams.
20 grams.
So we put the trees to dry
You have to
in
plant
the
the
home.
tree in a scale.
And we end up with about 3 or 4 kilos of marijuana in your home.
But if you plant a tree and it grow big so, and I plant 4 little things so,
Yeah.
and I put one more little thing.
No, but what
you
you
good,
saying?
but I not good.
No, but what he's saying is you plant your trees.
You plant the trees
and
legally.
you go on vacation for 3 weeks and the rain fall nice and the sun and your
You'll
tree-
get charged.
Your trees
You'll get
blossom
charged.
beyond the amount of...
Now you're trafficking.
No,
you know
wait.
it sound like with
It is idiotic.
Put
like
your trees to dry.
It's idiotic.
And then when you put your trees to dry, the quantity change.
I'm not comparing it to this, but this just came into my head. Remember when Gandhi went to revolt against the British with the salt tax, where he pulled the water and threw it out there and it just dried up and the salt, and alright, well, I'm breaking the law by doing that, right? Peaceful. If your trees dry up and whatever, no, it fall off, hey, you're trafficking now.
So do you fully support decriminalization of marijuana?
Once it stays in this present situation here, it should be. Because when you look at it, we have the possession of marijuana that's supposed to be a ticketed offense.
Correct.
And they're going to say a lie, right? But we don't have any ticket books.
So-
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
He's correct.
Hold on a second.
do not,
Say that again.
we do not have any ticket books to deal with the marijuana that they say that was simple possession and you could have issued a ticket to someone. We don't have the ticket books.
So what's the next step?
The day.
Well, we might have to take a different procedure.
The day.
Then they're gonna get you.
There's a ticket
So
book.
he have no
there's
choice.
yeah,
You're
one is
saying
a
that-
one is a ticketable offense
but no ticket book.
with no ticket book.
The day it came into effect, I was working with you, and I had a meeting with senior soup of Port of Spain, with him and his ASPs were there. They were in charge of certain, and we have a meeting going on. Something I can't remember what it was going on, and one of them says, "Sir," the superintendent come and says, "Sir, don't forget from today, ticketing for marijuana, right?" And he look, he say, "We get ticket books." He super laugh.
Yeah.
He say, "No." He say, "Well, how are we gonna?" He say, "Well, how are you gonna ticket them?"
How do you do that?
He says,
So you see, I mean,
That's
laughing and
ridiculous
joking,
that's
but
going on,
things
I
like
mean,
that
come on.
goes to the issue of morale because how police officers could feel like they're working in an environment.
they
that is
feel like it's a
professional.
joke. The senior brass in Port of Spain, they treat it like a joke. You know why? Because
So
it was
the
a
whole
joke.
marijuana, decriminalization of marijuana was mishandled, manhandled.
But there's no regulation. When you decriminalize, you must have, on one hand, decriminalization, but then regulation. Not law, regulations.
Regulation. That's true.
And there's no regulation.
So if you're looking at, take for instance, you close to a school, you could have within 500 meters of a school, your marijuana 30 grams could end up to be trafficking because you're within
A
500
school,
meters
a
of
school zone.
right? What happens to persons who live within the school?
It happened to someone I know, and
Are we
they got
supposed to have 4 trees in the
he
home?
got she got charged for trafficking.
We must have to separate these
I
things.
know somebody got charged for
You
trafficking.
cannot just shoot legislation out and leave
He
the
got
public
off though,
exposed.
but he got charged. He got off, but it charged him. He was living next door to a
Next door
school,
to a school.
and the same thing occurred.
Yeah. And all these
mean-
other things. Now, if you have marijuana in the home, and this is why I told you we have to be careful and deal with it in such a way that we put total regulations on it. Because we have 4 marijuana trees in the home. That's our son there. Where does he have to go? Does he have to go anywhere else to get it to carry it to school to sell? Let me ask you another question. If you have marijuana exposed to your children all over the place, now we have this thing called meth. And a number of new drugs in tablet form. But we see no legislation for it.
And the police was warned about it since I was working there. They warned about it.
What
They didn't put anything in
What
place.
were they copying? What law, where in the world were they copying for this 4 trees thing? Where did that come from?
Are you saying that the law was not well thought out, Philip?
No.
But look at this way. Look how
There are
people
some issues.
look who drive high.
But I just want to ask you, right? If
Yeah.
you want to decriminalize it, and you can say, okay, so you can have a marijuana retail license, and you can have a marijuana distribution license, you can have a marijuana growing license. You have a system.
Also
So
for
then you
tests.
say, okay, don't grow your own marijuana. It's against the law to grow marijuana. So you can't grow it, but you could buy it, and we could monitor that.
Mr. Philip, where do you get that? I am new to the game, and I want to start my own trees.
Bring in the seeds.
Where do you get the seeds, Mr. Philip? Do we have to go on the block, the same block that we tried
Same
to
block
avoid?
that-
So again, and
But
you raised
even-
it to show the ridiculousness.
But
of
even
it.
there are
even
some
drive.
issues.
How long now? This what was said by the attorney general at the time? Drugalizers. You know what people drive high? You know how many people I see in the morning come out some areas
Right.
with a big spliff in their mouth, smoking and speeding on the road.
All we look for is marijuana. I'm sorry, we look for alcohol,
Yeah.
in terms of driving. But there are also other things. And you see, that's when you search your society and look for things that could prevent persons from doing things. Take, for instance, you go to the doctor, he tell you, listen, wait until you reach home to take this tablet because it might affect you in one way or another. You take it because you're feeling sick.
And you go.
And you're gone. You're driving on the road and you crash and you kill 2 persons and nobody checked to see. The first they, all right, you're not
Alcohol.
drunk.
Yeah, you're not drunk.
So something, probably some internal things, a heart attack, you get all kind of thing. But you took the
You
medication.
really make our police service sound like it's in the 1800s and truth. The more you talk, the more I realize
And you know
that
what?
we
It's
are.
what they- it's what
It
they're-
is
I
in the
can't believe it's
1800s.
what they're taught.
They've not updated from the Queen.
It's what they're
still,
taught.
It's still the same thing. Nothing's changed.
When
we have
it-
the same archaic laws. We're still trying to force it to fit, and it's not fitting the modern society. It's not
we are
fitting.
building on a policing concept which was suppress the natives. That was the policing concept. You think the policing back then is the policing that England uses? You think is that policing? It's not that policing. We are building on a broken system. The system that we have was for colonies. And we are going back to state police again. Even calling it state police. We are built on a colonial policing system that has failed. England has gone out right into the sunset. Glad for that. But instead of developing our own systems, let's just build on the broken system.
So I'm saying again, because we're 62 years independent, but the critical issues of state, even water consumption, and I talk about this, I'll never forget when Peter O'Connor, who wrote for the Newsday, and he was an environmentalist, when they doubled Crystal Stream Highway, all they built alongside Crystal Stream Highway was another river to continue the river that was downstream of it. But you sent so much new water into a system that wasn't set up for that volume of water. He said every time rain fell, it was like flushing a toilet into a teacup. And to the untrained eye, is a drain. Blame the rain. But government's job is to plan. I come back to that word plan.
I feel like we just do things in this country for the sake of doing it. Sometimes it feels like that, right? It's just done because, yeah, let's just do it.
Because if you work it out, right? If when the chickens come home to roost, you not in government anymore, you don't have to clean up your own mess.
But you know, we do plenty, a
You
lot.
make a mess and you leave it for somebody else.
What we don't
To
understand.
look bad in it.
to look bad in the mess.
What we don't understand in this country is this. And it's in policing, it's in everything. We love in this country to use tactics and then develop strategy.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a strategy, and then that,
But
that dictates your tactics.
But it's an
Tactics, yeah.
absence of
No.
a plan. You need a holistic plan. Every time you talk, and we step it one step further, we went from the police commissioner to the minister of national security. We reached the prime minister.
But the buck stops at the prime minister.
But you need a prime minister that understands social development, works alongside police, national security, has to have a plan for the management of the...
You know what the prime minister needs to do? And this has become the problem in the last 10 years as well. The prime minister is not the person who, yes, the buck stops with the prime minister, but they're not supposed to be the person making all the direct decisions. They need to have the people, trust the people you put in place to make the decisions, have that collaboration, and inform the prime minister. Not, I think this personally, so everything have to run like
Boss,
this.
let me tell you something. Last night, now I like to know that I am really good at solving problems. I like to know that. They call me the fix-it man, right? But last night I sat down there. Now, the industry that
You ever get your barrier back that they take?
I sat down there listening to Kamala Prasad Bissessa last night announcing some policies. Now, I am in property development, and I never even thought that it was possible to deal with town and country and the regional corporations and all the drama that comes. When you go to build something, and it is a moving platform,
A one-stop shop you're looking for.
she say a one-stop shop,
Yeah.
brother.
Correct.
And it was like a light went off. I thought, wow,
So-
what an idea
Well,
that
you know from
is.
this, the town and country permissions and the corporation permissions are the same permission.
Brother man, you go to town and country to get outline permission. That outline permission have to go back to the regional corporation
And
for
then
them
back
to
to
tell you
somebody.
that you need to get water, fire,
And all the things you know.
and you
But
have to...
you're back and forth, The proposal...
They are over-engineering because they don't know how to manage.
Well, correct, yes. I
So,
would
so
say that.
that's
yes.
what they do.
They
So
are,
what
yeah.
she is saying is a one-stop shop responsible for issuing your planning
So you're
permission
one place
and
you
to
operate
certify you
One time.
with your completion. That would cause an immediate jump
In
in
development.
construction and development
Correct.
in this country overnight. You know how many people come out of the development business because of the bureaucracy? You know the amount of corruption.
It will also reduce corruption, yes.
Brother, the amount of corruption that exists, everybody looking for somebody who know who to bribe. Because that's what it is. You meet the right man who have the right connections, you giving him money. Because this whole construction industry,
It's convoluted.
I could take you close to here. There are laws about how much green space you have to leave on your property. But if you're a government minister,
get
you can
through.
build 99% concrete and nobody come in to
Correct.
ask you anything. He get his completion certificate, she gets her completion certificate, whoever it was. But I'm just saying that when she said it, I said, wow, what an idea.
That will make it so much easier. And you see what
To
you,
the average
But what-
person to build a home.
and you need that concept throughout. For example, registering companies, doing these things, you
Paul,
need
when you
one-stop
buy a
shop.
house for
One-stop
500,000,
shop.
Yeah.
when you buy a house for 500,000, $250,000 of that money is fees and charges
And this and that,
and professional fees. That the average person now, she just made it possible for the average person, because you could go online and buy housing plans. I have 3,000 square feet of land.
Buy
I want to
house.
build a 1,500 square foot house. I like this design. How much for it? $20,000. Boom. I pay you. I have my plans. I take my plans and I go to this one-stop shop.
And-
Boom, boom, boom.
But even
Come on.
But look, even now with the digital world, you go on a site like Fiverr, you might pay a couple $100 US, someone will do a plan for you.
I know.
I mean, it is
I
simple
know.
now. Yeah.
Quick.
Yeah.
But exactly. So you trying to tell me this election is down to two people, really? Kamala and Churchill. Because he's leading the PNM. However that happened, I don't know. But I'm just saying, You're dealing with somebody who has the vision to solve a problem that massive and bring it down into
It's a
one
simple
sentence.
solution.
And you have an ex-joker trying to send
Virtual
old
doc-
people to virtual doctors. And we still pretending that it is apples and apples. Come on.
And this is why, and she also said in one of the meetings, why one would say that we are spending too much money on national security and the protection of our people. How does that happen? Alexander, if you're a king, and Mr. Knowles and I, and we are your subjects, your duty is to take care of us. Our responsibility to take care of you. Right?
Yeah.
If we die, are you still a king?
You're king over. What kingdom do you preside over?
That's what I'm saying. And so then why you would leave your people to die if you care so much about them?
Come back to the security borders then.
Borderline.
That is to the Ministry of National Security. So that's the outlying boundary.
Yeah.
We gone back to the planning and the execution, the support and everything. But after all that is done, if the borders porous and guns flowing and illegal
Drugs flowing everywhere.
Venezuelan gang members coming in here to put on work and go.
Some would ask, well, Alexander, what do you mean? And I said, you cannot have a home. You have a nice big house, no doors, no windows, no fence. What is the security you have for yourself?
Right.
So that is why we were talking about, my leader was talking about having the persons within the age of 45 to stay on. So you already have that trained manpower.
You could be
repurpose them to assist in the
trained
borderlands.
manpower that the state has
state
spent
has
a
already
lot
spent
of money on.
to
A
do.
lot of money.
So you have persons already trained for that purpose. Why allow them to go away when you have that type of responsibility?
You can
So we
bring-
could repurpose.
We could repurpose that whole thing.
But why not repurpose the whole army?
Well, you could.
You could.
Homeland Security.
You could repurpose it.
That's her intention.
Could be done.
Right.
Her intentions is to create two
Ministries.
a Ministry of Defense
And a Ministry
and a Ministry of Homeland Affairs. Yeah. So when you do that,
Sound like she getting some good advice, but
so when you do that, you cannot now wonder where you
have a plan.
Exactly.
You sitting down in a situation where you're running amok. You have 8,000 men down in Chagaramas with nothing to do, and they're willing to help.
And here what?
And they want.
willing
They have
to
soldiers.
help.
And the men
that
are
want
already
them-
trained.
And they trained.
You don't have to take nobody and carry them in no class for no 9 and 10 months. And no. So you get up the ground running.
It is also administrative help because national security is the biggest ministry,
Yes.
and it is really overburdened with its size.
Yeah.
It's about time we make that split. And as I said, there are soldiers now who they fed up going on to a thing. They want to do what they came in to
They
do.
want to
you know.
work.
They want to work.
They want to work. Believe that.
No,
wants to
to
work.
everybody listening, I want you to hear this. There's something called Maslow's hierarchy of
Yes,
needs.
yes.
And I tell people this all the time. If you don't understand human beings, that is the manual of a human. People want to feel actualized. I'm trained as a soldier.
Let me do that.
I'm fit as a fiddle. You have me trained to do this job. Give me the job to do.
Correct that. Yeah. Let me do just that. So we don't have to look for manpower per se.
We have
So you
plenty
saying
manpower.
to Trinidad and
We have
Tobago,
plenty manpower.
you say to Trinidad and Tobago today that the advantages we need to fix this country and end the crime,
Yeah, right
you're
there.
saying we have it.
We have it right there.
Right there,
So
yeah.
you're saying that it is just leadership that is
Leadership,
lacking.
implementation,
Management.
management. That's it. And
That's it.
we can do that. We can. There are a number of persons. Just imagine. These persons are trained
Let me ask
in
something.
different type of weapons and warfare, and then we have them just floating out in the
How-
ocean,
we have
and they
a-
are looking for a job.
And we have an air guard. How many years has been since the air guard was in the, how many years was the air guard grounded? It was not in the air. Years. Years have passed, and years.
Yeah.
Terms of government have passed, and the air guard were not in the air.
You know what we have done too?
mean-
Yeah? We prefer that things come in and we go look for it than we prevent it from coming
Coming
in.
in.
I don't understand the
And then
concept.
we both
behind it, eh?
success.
And then we say we success. But when you prevent something from coming in, you should get the thumbs up.
Because
but when you go on the inside and look for it, you remember you do not.
You've already
you might be-
failed. You
Listen,
cleaned up after yourself.
You've lost.
hey,
you've lost
they have
9
broken
10
your security.
Correct.
and you have
enter
lost
your
most,
homes.
and you have
But
lost most of
imagine,
it.
so just imagine if you could say to yourself with 100% certainty we've secured the borders. We are telling you something you could.
We could.
We secure the borders And then you start to reward rank and file police officers $1,000 cash for every illegal weapon you bring in. Because
Right.
if it's anybody I want legally buying the BMW and the Mercedes Benz,
Is the police
it's
officer.
hard-working police officers.
Radar system, aerial support, quick launch vessels,
Exactly.
and your security borders.
Brother man, they have sonar boys. Before we was thinking of we would have to build we would have to repurpose oil barges, and now they have sonar boys. You ring
Yeah.
the
Boy,
country with sonar boys. Anything pass, up and down.
Anything.
Without permission,
anything.
Coast Guard stop
Trip
it.
an alarm
Yeah.
that you could
A
have
response vessel.
on the shore launching UAVs that could sink your boat.
Yeah.
That a man
We don't take...
operating in a command center, because I watched this show and I couldn't believe that they were showing this technology exists. This man somewhere in the middle of America operating UAVs and bombing Afghanistan. Like a video game.
we don't take our national security very serious.
No,
We
really
don't.
don't.
Because sometimes we only have ideas as far as our eyes could see.
Do you think it's that? Or do you think that some people have a vested interest in the borders being porous and that's why we don't secure it?
Well, let me share this with you. I don't want to go too much into it, but I can tell you this much. Sometimes you look at how things unfold and know there's a beneficial factor in many things that is happening, if not all things.
Brother, I tell people that in Trinidad, anything that's not working, somebody benefiting from that.
Correct. Yeah.
All right.
Somebody making money from the crime. That's why the crime
Yeah.
can't stop.
What happened to the scanners?
Again,
Why we are so invested in Tobago and Tobago doesn't have a scanner? Huh? You see, sometimes we talk, we talk, and I think we don't listen to ourselves. and
these
we-
issues could be fixed.
It
What
could be
we
fixed.
need is the people
It
with the
could be
political
fixed.
will in government.
Correct.
We need the people with the political will
yes,
to fix it
you
in
see-
government.
You see the
The drug
interagency.
trade, the gun trade, all of the contraband, the
Yeah.
human trafficking, we could end it.
You see the interagency approach is one that we have to look at too. When I say there are information out there that there are certain type of officers, I wouldn't want to call no name now, that they are participating in certain activities, right? Where our legal borders are concerned. If we have an interagency approach, chances
That can happen.
chances are that we will detect these things. Someone will detect it. It's the same thing at the airport.
Yeah.
The same thing happened
We have,
at the
but
you have
the
special
head of-
branch, you have
but the-
customs,
Right.
you have all these different agencies.
And
What are you talking about is guarding the guards. Who
Yeah.
gonna guard the guards?
Yeah, no.
They will guard the guards. The guards will guard each
the
other.
guards will guard each other. You see,
But the head of customs years ago told the government that 50% of the containers coming into this country coming in unchecked because they don't have the manpower and they don't have the money. You know that years now and you've done nothing.
let me tell you about
In a
experience.
country where police battling illegal guns, where you have young men posing
Yeah.
with AR-15, where that AR-15 come from? AR-15 is $60,000-$70,000. Who arming these fellas? Where that coming from? You are telling me that you have a government in office that trying to pretend that they have a plan to run this country when they can't even secure a border, a door, where the person who manning the door tell you, yo, with funding and manpower,
Good man,
we
this-
could stop
stop
this.
If you be talking about scanners and all these things, if you allow this to continue, we continue to look for the needle in the haystack. Every opportunity they get, they check it to make sure that it could be penetrated, and they penetrate it. But yet we sit here and do nothing, as if the life of our citizens are not important. Because when a man fired this AR-15, now they are getting persons to put it fully automatic, which is not a difficult thing, you know.
No, this is.
But you have
it's not.
people who know.
Right.
Listen, I remember reading something Darius Figueroa wrote when this Coast Guard man died with that submersible drug thing. He said it's common knowledge that they rigged to sink. How come our Coast Guard didn't know that, it rigged to
That
sink?
was
That
a
was
lack
it.
of training.
It
That
was.
was a lack of training.
So what, they have the information, they didn't train the guard?
They
Well, you see,
You don't-
we live in a society that until something happens, we treat with it. But every vessel every craft, every vehicle, you have to know. There was a time when they bought some vehicles for law enforcement, and the back glass was not going right up. The back glass was here. So you sitting on the back glass here. How can you really execute your duty?
With a obstruction like that, yeah.
Yeah, you know, so you have to understand that. And no, if you provide the right equipment, the right training,
Proper equipment, proper training.
the right
So
resources.
who make the decision to buy the vehicles? No, obviously not police. They don't
And that's
know.
what I'm telling you. If they go to the ground, men on the ground, the persons who walk the
But
streets,
they might be the ground men. If your seniors
Yeah.
are men who were on the ground, at least they know and could tell you, brother, you care about halfway glass.
if I'm buying a bulletproof vest, for 2 or 3 months, I would like to give some officers those vests to work with and tell me what kind of effect that it is given to them. The army, you know what I'd like to do too? Looking at the army, I would like to standardize weapons for different agencies.
The theory now on that is whatever weapons we get to buy, we take it. Wasn't it the police service, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it Gibbs that started to standardize the weapons,
Right.
began to do it?
Yeah, he started to do some standardization.
And before that was what? This type of round, this type of weapon, everything was a hodgepodge.
Right.
Yeah, we're talking about when? 2013, 2012?
We need to standardize weapons for different agencies
Correct.
to avoid this belief that, take for instance, you know, I might be a particular officer and I go there and something happens, I discharge. But they're checking us now. No, we have the same thing. So who really discharged?
I want to make this
You
point.
might say, that's how you might say, well, the wrongs might mark whatever agency it belongs to. But there are persons now in Trinidad and Tobago who are using a certain type of machinery, laser-like machinery, to restamp vehicles and restamp wrongs.
Wow.
You know what I'm telling you? So you could duck and weave and these things must come to an end.
In terms of standardization of weapons, I want to make this point. A lot of agencies, they haven't standardized their weapons. They have just bought a batch of this type of weapon.
Yeah.
And if another batch come, they will
Take
buy
it to-
another type. So there's a different standardization. It's in a policy.
It's in
saying
a
that
policy.
this is our standard weapon, so.
This is for it.
Right?
Yeah.
But what they have done, for example, the prisons are using the Smith & Wesson M&Ps.
Right.
It's because they bought a batch of it, they like it, so they're buying it. But it must be in the policy. Because when you standardize the weapon,
Yeah.
the training,
Yeah.
the armor's equipment, the armor training, you have to standardize across the board with it and
It's
be
a
part of your policy.
Total complement of things.
Correct. It's not just, we want to buy this type of gun, which is what's happening.
Coming into the last 5 minutes, and this 2 hours flew fast. But I
Yeah.
want to say to both of you all, because we need to give the people some hope.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Tell them, because I already believe. Tell them what's at stake on the 28th of April. Tell them what they could be getting if they vote sensibly, because I think that's what you want to say.
Yeah. A total change in how we feel and care about our citizens. No one death of persons on the nation streets, extortions, kidnappings mustn't be seen as just another day living in Trinidad. Both foreign and local must see that differently. They must see our new approach to the fight against crime, which will give all the resources available to the different authorities, the different institutions, to effectively carry out their role and function. And let me just say this quick. The young man in society, some people want to give you a fish and to teach you to fish and all of that. Here what I am planning to do. I want to give you an opportunity, not just to fish, but to have sustainable fish for a long time.
Wow.
So instead of I giving you today, I give you $100 today and that's it. I'm asking for 6 to 8 months of a man's life to hand you a skill in your hand, certify you, and let you face the small business development for something to start you off. So if you fail, it was on you. And then when we talk in security, we must also talk food security. Farmers, believe you me, we're going to redirect, redesign, and bring that pre-dear larceny squad to a different level. No longer are they just wrong. We want them to be very effective, and that is one of the things that we'll implement almost immediately. So we're making sure that the farmers who are feeding the people, they are safe, the animals are safe, so they can carry out their business.
I want to
lawfully.
say, people listening to you, I mean, you're not a small man. People listening to you.
So are my ideas.
Yeah, no, but this is what I'm going to say.
Good plug, good plug.
People would be expecting you to be using terms like stomp and crush and break, and you come at things from such a genteel way sometimes that all of your policies seems to be built on the human aspect.
It must be, because those are the persons we're serving. If you're serving the animals, obviously we'll have to go differently. But it's the people we serve. And if we intend to serve the people, we have to take a more gentle approach, effective approach, meaningful approach. Yeah? So we want everybody to be on board. This August the 28th.
April
the 28th is not a simple day. It is a day that you have to come out and vote for change. Not rearrange the same thing, for change. Yeah? And when we speak, we don't speak lies, we speak the truth, because our honesty to the people is what's going to bring
It's going to
us
be
into power.
measurable.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to measure the success.
Yeah.
It's no VAPs, it's no
No
VOOP.
VAPs.
It's
And last but not least, let the non-performance of others show.
Contrast
sometimes-
and compare.
So sometimes we don't have to say much.
contrast and
You know?
compare. Come
The
on.
citizens have felt it, and they know it. Yeah?
Paul Daniel Nahus.
I try to be a very fair person when I assess, especially assessment of policy. And I'll tell you this. On April the 28th, I would break it down for the citizenry like this. Vote for who you feel will be able to secure you from a track record of it. If you do not feel safe under your government, then you are not safe. If you do not feel safe under them, you are not safe.
You said earlier the buck stops with them.
Buck
The buck
stops
stops with the Prime
correct.
Minister. The only day the Prime
So-
Minister is the Minister of everything.
Go over look at stats if you have to, look at whatever if you have to. But ask yourself, who would you feel safer under? Who would you feel more prosperous under? Where you put your vote on April the 28th can literally be a matter, and probably will literally be a matter of life and death. So if you are happy with us being number 6 in the world in crime and number 3 or 4 in murder, well then you're happy with that. I am not happy with that. When you place your vote, understand something. You could be voting for life or death of you and your families. Thank you.
Wow, it's a very instructive conversation today. I brought people to the conversation whose hands have been involved, and so it's not like it's vague. It's not like you don't understand. It was broken down for you in ways that you could understand all of the things that are wrong with our national security apparatus and our social development management and why we have the crime we have. And more importantly, it was outlined for you how easily it could be fixed. I think that April 28th is going to be a day for people to choose selfishly. I made a selfish decision when I decided to join with Kamala Prasad Bisesa. I said to myself, if I want a better life for me and my family, what going on now cannot continue. Cannot continue. I watch a prime minister resign and flee and put a man to I don't know I don't know what to call him. He's not a prime minister. There's no clause or provision in the constitution for what they did. So he's a usurper, a squatter. But he now is who you have to turn your attention to. When you look into the past, Keith Rowley was an abject failure. When you look into the future, Stuart Young couldn't be more clueless if he tried. And he reminds me of that post-turtle story. Where he got to, a turtle on top of a post, he is like a turtle on top of a post. Where he got to, he didn't get there by himself. And he didn't know what he doing up there. And he can't help nobody, not even himself. Kamala Prasad Bisesa, I want you all to start listening, and I know you're listening because the crowds Massive. Last night Saddam Hussein tell me, he said, boy, I was worried after Saturday. I didn't think I was getting a crowd. If you see the crowd in Barataria, the crowds, they enjoying it, they're loving it. Is entertainment, is information, it is camaraderie, is family, is every creed and race. We're making it happen. I am saying that Trinidad and Tobago, with no uncertainty, the future of this country will be determined by what we do on April 28th. And if what we want is a country where we could all be safe and enjoy life and have hope and opportunity, come out and vote for the United National Congress Coalition of Interest, and we will fix it.
Tobago, get ready for all the latest updates, debates, and live coverage only on The Street 919 FM, the #1 election station.
No jobs, no safety, no water, no justice, no accountability, bad roads, corrupt politicians, no more. We're going and fix it. It's time.
By PEP, Progressive Empowerment Party. Save TNT, vote PEP.
Save TNT, vote PEP.
You've got bills to pay, and so do we. Let's go pay some bills on The Street 919 FM.
When UNC wins, your mental health wins as well. There has been a proliferation of noise pollution emanating from homes and fetes and bars and clubs intolerable to the persons living nearby. The UNC will amend the noise pollution laws to protect your mental health in these noisy residential neighborhoods and businesses. The system of granting bar license, party license will be changed by the UNC.
When UNC wins, everybody wins.
This is the voice of the PNM. TNT, we're inviting you